Well, folks, if you could have condensed Oklahoma's entire 2024 football season into one game, this was that game. Parker Thune, Brian Clinton, live on location at Ammon G. Carter Stadium here in Fort Worth, Texas, where the Sooners fall 21-20 at the hands of the Navy midshipmen and drop to 6-7 for the second time in 3 years under Brent Venables. And Brian, comedy and tragedy was the theme of the day for this football team. A myriad of errors, once again, as we have become accustomed to. Sacks left and right, 2 missed fourth down conversions, 1 turnover, only 1 on a fumble from Michael Hawkins. And then, of course, a missed 2-point conversion with 6 seconds to play that would have given the Sooners the victory. Instead, they wind up with a defeat. Where do you even start in this football game?
Yeah, I'll just let you hold it. I didn't mind the 2-point conversion opportunity. I mean, at that point, what did you have to lose? Is kind of the way that I was looking at this. Are fans really going to be that much happier with a 7-6 than 6-7? In hindsight, you could say that. I don't believe that's the case. It was just tough. It was, as you said, a microcosm of the entire season for Oklahoma. And when they jump out to that 14-point lead, you feel good about things. You start to think, hey, maybe this team has figured a few things out in the bowl practices, and then the same team that we saw each and every week showed back up again, starting in the second quarter. And really, when you sit and think about the entire season and the scope of this game, it's a miracle that this team won 6 football games. There were more opportunities for Navy to really pile on. Had Navy been able to hit on a couple of passes that were wide open, this game likely looks a lot worse than it did. So at the end of the day, I mean, it felt like putting the horse down, and it's done at this point. You can put a bow on it and move to 2025. It's not how it's not how folks wanted the season to go, but it is over at last.
7 dropped passes today for Oklahoma. Michael Hawkins was 28 of 43, 247 yards, 2 touchdown passes. He rushed for 61 yards as well. In addition to the 7 drops, which made up nearly half of his 15 incompletions, he also had a 56-yard touchdown run that was wiped out due to a holding penalty. It's one of those things that you just have to have a sense of humor about, Brian, because it is truly hilarious in the saddest of ways how this team continually manages to undermine any and all goodwill that it builds up. It does something right, it immediately does something wrong.
Yeah, it's almost a skill at this point. Like you have to almost hone that and craft it over the year. And Oklahoma, unfortunately, became a team that found ways to lose football games rather than win them. And that was a trend all season long. Really, at the end of the day, it shouldn't have been that surprising for Oklahoma fans. Come the fourth quarter, Oklahoma finds itself in a dogfight against a disciplined football team, and things don't break their way. That's what's going to happen whenever you play not just a service academy, but a team that is finding ways to stay in the football game, and you are giving them opportunity after opportunity. So it's tough, but I'm glad we get to close a chapter on this thing and close the book. It's on to Ben Arbuckle and see what things can look like on offense when you can push the ball down the field a little bit.
Truly a season from hell for the Sooners, because it wasn't one that you could just give up on at any point. Right. It's not like you could throw in the towel and say, all right, this season's a wash, let's move on. This team housed Alabama.
Correct.
Alabama, the number 13 team in the country, 24-3 on their home field just a little bit more than a month ago. That team didn't vaguely resemble the team that we came to know over the course of the other 12 games of this season. For the Sooners, the defense generally was strong throughout the campaign, but it was the worst season of offensive football that I've witnessed in my lifetime at Oklahoma, and that many folks have witnessed in their lifetimes from Oklahoma. Even so, there were such encouraging flashes. We saw him today. Michael Hawkins scrambles around for what felt like an eternity and hits Zion Kearney down the field for what turned into a 57-yard touchdown pass to stake the Sooners to a 14-0 first quarter lead. And it was almost as if as soon as that second quarter hit, something changed. Yeah. Don't know what it was, Brian, but the play calling became completely uninspired. And obviously, this is what you brought Ben Arbuckle in to do, is to revitalize your offense, to be your principal play caller, and to provide his creativity and his expertise in scheming. But thankfully, this is the last time we have to watch the 2024 Oklahoma Sooners play offense, because all season long it was as if as soon as they figured something out, they would immediately go away from it. Again, the lone exception in all of this is that Alabama game where they figured out what worked and they stuck with it. But I was completely baffled by what the play calling became come the second quarter.
Yeah, and it's hard to say that they got conservative. Like that would be the first thing people turn to. But you fail on a couple of fourth down tries, and really it is baffling. That's the best way to put it, because when you look at what Joe John Finley put together in the first quarter, it did feel like Oklahoma had found something that they could generate not just success with, but take time off the clock and actually keep Navy's offense on the sideline, which we knew coming into this, if they can control the football game offensively, it's going to be really difficult. And Oklahoma in the first quarter looked as if they had something figured out. And then, as you said, it's like when the second quarter started, something changed. When you look at it at the end of the day, sure, your receiving core, there are a lot of young guys out there having to play a lot of snaps. Didn't see Devon Mitchell at tight end, which is notable. Roberts has a great last game. But all in all, Oklahoma's offensive room it's null and void of difference makers, really, at the skill positions right now. And the guys that are difference makers, you kind of are left scratching your head as to how they're used. Look no further than the running back rotation. Xavier Robinson coming out of the regular season undoubtedly looked like running back number one. He had 6 carries today. There's just a lot of things that just leave you scratching your head, and at the end of the day, it's just not good enough.
Sam Franklin saw the field before Xavier Robinson ever did. He immediately dropped 2 passes, was sent back to the sideline, and did not touch the field for the remainder of the contest, which, again, goes back to the baffling usage of some of this offense's best players. Zach Schmidt missed a field goal. I mean, it's as if a new mistake, a new misdeed by Oklahoma comes to mind every minute we get deeper into this postmortem, if you will, because there are almost too many to enumerate. The Sooners shot themselves in the foot over and over and over again, and it feels like we've stood on these fields and said something to that effect every single week all fall. And now some very hard questions face this program moving into the offseason, because you talked about the lack of difference makers at wide receiver, or the guys that Oklahoma brought in via the transfer portal. Giovanni Gibson from Arkansas Pine Bluff, Isaiah Satania from Arkansas, and Keontez Lewis from Southern Illinois, in addition to true freshmen Emmanuel Choice and Elijah Thomas. Are those guys enough to get this wide receiver room to where it needs to be for quarterback John Mateer, who you would imagine will be an upgrade over the quarterback play that you got throughout the 2024 season, but have you upgraded anywhere else? Will you be upgrading anywhere else? Right. That's going to be one of many questions that face the Sooners this offseason. If nothing else today, Ivan Carrion had a nice day. I mean, you're really searching for positives outside of the play of Michael Hawkins, who battled as he does. Again, Jake Roberts hauls in a nice touchdown. Last play of his collegiate career. Good on him. Defensively, and again, we could dwell on this subject for 15, 20 minutes if we wanted to. Some of the personnel rotations, some of the guys that were seeing meaningful snaps for Oklahoma in this game leave you baffled. And it was almost as if this Oklahoma staff decided when this game became a 2-possession game at 14-0, well, we can kind of lay off the gas a little bit. We can get guys snaps. We can do our best to make sure everybody sees the field today. Lo and behold, Navy did not give up the ghost. Blake Horvath breaks free for the slowest 95-yard touchdown run I've ever seen. That was just kind of the microcosm of the day, Brian, in many ways, because he gets into the open field and he's lumbering 95 yards down the field. By the end of the play, you just can't believe that he's still upright and that nobody has chased him down yet. But he just had so much space on that run that there wasn't enough leeway for anybody to chase him down, slow as he may have been running.
Yeah, well, and that's just It's bad assignment football in that particular play from Oklahoma. The defense, outside of a couple of just huge chunk plays, played fairly well. They played the scheme very well. Had Navy really limited on the ground for the most part. Those big plays piled up, though. And when your offense can't score more than 2 or 3 touchdowns, and you're really stretching for that third touchdown, 30 seconds left in the game, or even less than that, you can't afford to have those kinds of plays. And so it really just brings everything into focus how much Oklahoma has to fix. Because, yes, that was a 10-win Navy team at the end of the season. That team just got finished playing an American Conference schedule. Oklahoma does not have anything easier coming next year. In fact, some of the road trips are looking tougher as we look towards 2025. There is so much work to be had and to be done for this team. And at this point, Brent Venables, who mentioned it in the postgame, he's got to look himself in the mirror. He's got to look this program over and really make some hard decisions, because at this point, he is coaching for his job.
And the most damning assessment I can give is that right now it feels like the Sooners are still a long way off from being a competitive football team in the SEC in 2025. There is still plenty of work to be done, and that work begins now. The final from Amon G. Carter Stadium, Navy 21, Oklahoma 20. Brent Venables joins John Blake as the only head coaches in the history of Oklahoma football to post 2 losing seasons in their first 3 years on the job. The noise is already loud. No doubt it's going to continue to mount as we get deeper and deeper into the offseason. It's going to be a good long time till we see this team take the field again for a meaningful football game. I believe they open the season next August 30th. So, folks, until then, for Brian Clinton and our entire crew at OUinsider.com, I'm Parker Thune. Thanks so much for staying along for the ride in this 2024 season, tumultuous as it may have been with us. We hope to see you on the boards over at OUinsider.com to continue discussing this game and this season in great detail. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Y'all take it easy.